Hello and welcome back to Jack Knives Reviews. I'm of course your host, Jack Knives, and welcome to the final installment of Disneyland Month. Now that we've gone full circle, let's go back to the very beginning and look at the franchise that started it all. And by all, I mean film adaptations based around Disney properties. So for my final installation, I'm going to look at every single movie of the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise.
Pirates of the Caribbean.
Among the high seas lies many a mystery and many untold treasures. To face these winds of fortune stands an eccentric captain named Jack Sparrow. Along with his men and allies, he comes face to face with mythical creatures, corrupted pirates, corrupt government officials. But with luck and even more rum, Captain Jack always pulls through. Starting off with this franchise was kind of just a huge gamble. No one really had done anything like this, and realistically, there wasn't really much of a story as far as the Pirates of the Caribbean ride was concerned. Sure, there were moments, but primarily it was just a bunch of pirates having a good time and, enjoying the ports and the decadence therein. Curse of the Black Pearl had a lot to have as far as expectations. In fact, the first teaser poster was literally just a picture of the skeleton in front of the wheel of the ship. That's it. But I dare say that the movie Curse of the Black Pearl is not only a bar, it is beyond what you expect to see from a pirates movie. And when I say pirates movie, I mean a movie about pirates. I honestly think that Pirates of the Caribbean Curse of the Black Pearl is the perfect pirate movie. There weren't that many to really compare it to, but realistically, it's the greatest, just simple A to B story of a pirate's adventure. Magic in it, but not too much. There's some interesting, fascinating characters with fascinating backstories that we're never really given the full details of. And of course, there are some dynamic characters as well as some bland characters. Overall, it had the most perfect broad appeal as far as just check marks of good storytelling. That was what kind of drew so many people into it. To call this a sleeper hit is an understatement. No one had any expectations for this movie, but it blew up to a huge amount. People came in droves to see this movie, and it still holds up to this very day. In fact, I think the vintageness of it being centered around pirates kind of in a way makes it almost timeless compared to the rest of the movies. But with that comes the expectation of a sequel. I give Pirates of the Caribbean Curse of the Black Pearl 5 out of 5. Dead Man's Chest has the unfortunate task of being superseded by one of the best action thrillers of all time. And it kind of fails in that regard. I'd say it kind of falls in the same vein as Ninja Turtles 2: Secret of the Ooze, where they almost doubled down on the little kids aspect because they were too worried the kids were scared by the zombies. But it's like, if the kids weren't scared of the first movie, what makes you think they're going to be really scared of this movie? Because it just went in that weird direction. The saving grace to this entire thing, though, was it felt grander and more unworldly than the first movie. And that would be a franchise pattern that would just continue as the series went on to better or lesser degree. But I think the big issue I really have with this movie, despite a lot of fans loving this one, it's too much slapstick. It's too much comedy, and to me, it takes away the serious moments. The first movie had such a great balance between the seriousness of the culture of pirates mixed with this kind of fantastical element of adventure with a little hint of comedy. Whereas this movie was, let's make the comedy the forefront. There are iconic moments of it, but the thing that stuck out to me in this movie was Bill Nighy as Davy Jones. Holy barnacles, could he act so well in this movie. He just somehow almost made this like Shakespearean play like character. But he's also this weird tentacle creature in a world of barnacles and morphed reacher fishmen, which sounds stupid, but the way they do it is like really gross but really intricate at the same time. And I do love the visual aesthetics of this movie. Visually, fantastic movie. I think it's one of the most dynamically unique kind of adventure movies. Like it does get a little goofy at times, but it doesn't do it too much. And I like especially the parts where they're on the boat, seeing little details every time I watch the movie, like little details of like, oh, the pattern, like what did that used to be, what could this have been, you know? And it was really cool the way they did that. And it was really interesting to see like how the longer you're on the ship, the more it almost absorbs you. Was really fascinating. But it's not really for me. And with the end of the second movie, it was really, really cool for a climactic ending, leading us in to part 3. I give Pirates of the Caribbean Dead Man's Chest 3.5 out of 5. Now the final of the original, what was planned, trilogy. Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End. And boy, did they go all out for this movie. To the point where it was like, the buildup was like playing catch up in a sense. And it has everything that I complained about in the second movie where it was too much slapstick. This movie had like dark moments. I mean, there were straight up impalings. There was constant death. There was flat out the darkest scene I think I've ever seen in a Disney movie, bar none. It had the opening scene where these pirates and children pirates, or I guess stowaway cabin boys, just walking towards the gallows, the hangman's nooses, and seeing them all singing together from this little boy who was so small they had to literally make a box for him to stand on to be hanged. That is like, whoa. And there's a song that he sings that they still play on TikToks to make you scared because it's just so much gravitas to the song, and it's the Yo-Ho All Together Men song, and it's so dark. I've never seen a movie that just had the balls to pull off something like that, especially a movie primarily directed at young teens to kids. Like, that was wow. And the movie doesn't really hold too much back, although it does go a little bit on the goofy side again, but not too bad. I love the kind of visual aesthetics and the ideas that come from this movie, like how in order to get to Davy Jones' locker, they have to do these quests to get Jack, because Jack has the key to essentially summon a monster to stop Davy Jones, but it's not even a monster. It's a whole, it's fascinating. It was interesting ideas. It feels like this should have been split into 2 parts, because there's a lot going on, but it's not too much to the point where it's not easy to follow. I love seeing all the different pirates in the Brethren Court. It seemed like for the first time in this franchise that there was a giant world we weren't seeing of pirates, and it was really cool, and I wish they would have focused more on that, not just here but in the later series, but they never really do. And honestly, one of the coolest fight scenes, I love that scene where it's just Jack and Davy sword fighting in a storm on top of a freaking flag posts, just having at it. It was so cool. It was like, I loved it. And like, there was so much I love about this movie. It is only superseded, in my opinion, in the entirety of the franchise by the first movie. And in that same regard, it felt to me this was the right conclusion to this franchise. Unfortunately, Disney had other plans. I give Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End 4 out of 5. So after several years, pretty much everyone was just thinking, okay, it was a good trilogy, it ended in a good way, and there's no need to keep going. Disney had other plans, though, with On Stranger Tides. They really didn't have a plan for this movie. And it's obvious from the fact that all they announced was there's going to be Pirates 4. That was it. All they knew was they were going to make a fourth movie and Johnny Depp was going to star in it. And that's it. And it feels like not even in the same franchise. It's like you gave the keys to a kid to a new car and the kid crashes it into a wall. That's kind of what it felt like with this movie. Was there something here that was kind of interesting? Sure. Was there a little bit to go off of at the end of the last movie? At the end of the third movie, it sort of teased a possibility of the Fountain of Youth. But that was kind of it. And a lot of people just kind of thought, well, we don't need to see that story. Then word went by that there would be Blackbeard in the movie. And I'm like, huh. Okay. I mean, Blackbeard would probably be the most feared pirate besides Davy Jones in this universe, or any pirate universe. So, okay, what's the plot here? Well, the plot here is that basically Captain Jack is essentially forced to help Blackbeard look for the Fountain of Youth, and the Black Pearl, his most prized ship, is somehow shrunk and in a glass. They pretty much bastardized my favorite character, who was Barbossa. He felt most like a real pirate, and it just felt like a big slap in my face, and I was so angry, and I still just cannot stand this movie because it's just like a big middle finger for enjoying the rest of the franchise. I give Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger Tides 1 out of 5. Box office success, but not critical success, of On Stranger Tides comes the final movie in the franchise, Dead Men Tell No Tales. And the plot pretty much is just a guy who was getting revenge on Captain Jack because now he's a ghost. It's who isn't getting revenge on Jack? Now, to be fair, there are some elements in this movie that are kind of cool. Like, I did like to get to see young Jack Sparrow. I'm like, that's a thing a lot of fans have been wanting to see for years. What does a young Jack Sparrow look like? And we got to see him for about 7 minutes, maybe. The problem is the last movie, it sucked because it was irritating. And then this movie sucked because it's so boring. So it literally is a pick your poison at this point. And I don't really want to say much about this movie because it's just as forgotten as when it came out. This was essentially the death nail on the coffin that is the Pirates franchise. And even though they killed off my favorite character outside of Jack Sparrow, Barbossa, at that point his character had already been bastardized, so I didn't really care anymore. For me, it was just I kind of just wanted it to end. I don't want it to come back. I know we have this nostalgia wave coming, but please just let the Pirates series die. Let it be where it is. 4 and 5 just exist, even though I don't want them to. I give Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger Tides 2 out of 5. Well, that concludes Disneyland Month. But don't worry, we'll go back to our regular form soon enough. But in the meantime, why don't you let me know which of these movies is your favorite? What Disneyland ride could be made into a movie? And for that matter, why don't you let me know some Disney movies you'd like me to check out? Till then, I'll see you next time.